Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload, and you'll never miss a story again. You ever feel your life changing in a single minute? Like you're on autopilot, doing your job, same routine, same coffee, same stress. And then suddenly, you're on a different path entirely, and there's no getting off? That was me. My name's David. I was a senior project manager at a tech company working there for almost 9 years. Good reputation, steady promotions, no scandals, no office politics. I like to think I was the quiet type who just did his job and kept his head down. Married for 7 years to Melissa. We had a decent home, no kids yet, and what I assumed was a stable life. But like a lot of people who get blindsided, I missed all the signs. It started with a whisper, really. A strange tension in the air. My manager, Terrence, stopped looking me in the eyes. My emails got cold replies. Meetings that I used to lead got reassigned to someone else. At first, I thought it was pressure from a new client, or maybe they were grooming someone else for a promotion. Then I was called into HR, and everything changed. Sitting there in that too-clean office, the HR rep, Debbie, who always wore big round glasses and acted like everyone's aunt, looked at me like she didn't even want to be in the room. "There's been a complaint," she said, "and we're conducting a formal investigation." "A complaint?" I repeated. My stomach sank. "What kind of complaint?" She paused, clearly uncomfortable. "Personal misconduct. It's alleged that you've been involved in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate." I blinked. My entire body went still. Who said that?" I asked. She looked at me gently. "Your wife, Melissa." My world stopped. Melissa. My own wife. I stammered something, trying to understand. Apparently, she had sent an email to my company, detailing what she claimed were months of betrayal with a woman named Kelsey, one of the analysts on my team. The worst part? Kelsey was newly married and had just returned from her honeymoon. I was floored, not just because it was a lie, but because it was a lie from my own wife, and one that could ruin not just my marriage but my career, and ruin it did. Despite my denials and Kelsey's furious insistence that nothing ever happened, the company took the optics seriously. Internal politics got messy. Even though no actual proof existed, the HR team decided to part ways amicably. I was given a decent severance and a hollow smile. Melissa had cost me my job with a lie, a deliberate, vicious lie, and I still had no idea why. I remember walking into our house that evening, hearing her humming in the kitchen like nothing happened. She turned around and smiled. "Hey babe, how was work?" That was the moment I knew. She wasn't just reckless, she was dangerous. I didn't confront her right then. I couldn't. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, but my mind? Crystal clear. I needed answers. But more than that, I needed a plan. Over the next few days, I played the part. The loving husband, the confused man looking for new opportunities. Melissa acted like nothing was wrong. But I noticed little things. Extra phone time in the bathroom, changed passcodes, late errands that didn't add up. The lie about my cheating wasn't about revenge. It was a cover. She wanted me out of that job. Why? Because something darker was going on. I began retracing her steps, where she went, who she talked to. I pulled our shared phone bill. Patterns started emerging, frequent calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. Always around lunch or late at night when I wasn't home. I ran the number through a few online tools. It belonged to someone named Jordan Carr. No social media, no obvious connections. But I wasn't letting this go. One night, I waited until she fell asleep and used her thumb to unlock her phone. Not proud of it, but at that point, I was done playing fair. And there it was. A text thread with Jordan, dozens of messages. Flirty, intimate, sometimes explicit, but more than that, personal. They had memories, inside jokes, plans that didn't include me. I kept scrolling until I found what I was looking for. A message from 2 weeks ago. "Melissa, he still doesn't suspect a thing. I just need to get him out of that job, then we're free to move forward." I stared at the screen. My hands were cold, my breath felt stuck in my throat. She wasn't just cheating. She was trying to remove me from my life. I took screenshots, saved everything, and then I made a new plan. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to do what she did to me, but better. Melissa wanted me to lose everything? Fine. But she was going to lose something too. Except in her case, it would be everything. Because I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to expose the truth. And I had a way to do it that would be as clean and cold as the lie she told. The next morning, I woke with adrenaline coursing through my veins. I'd taken screenshots, stored evidence, but all that didn't matter until I turned it into action. I had to dismantle her plan in a way that couldn't be spun. A strategic, careful dismantling of her betrayal. First, I created duplicates of the screenshots. One copy encrypted and hidden, another discreetly printed and tucked into folders, safer to have backups. I renamed the files, labeled them Project Truth, and kept everything off my shared laptop. Discretion was key. I contacted an old lawyer friend, someone discreet, professional, explained the scenario without drama. False allegations, wrongful termination, marital betrayal. He offered insight about potential legal paths, defamation, divorce, even workplace claims. I hadn't decided to take it that far, yet. Meanwhile, I needed a new job. Staying unemployed with evidence pending exposure could look like bitter vendetta. So I quietly updated my resume, pulled in references from mentors in former projects, and applied selectively. I lined up interviews in departments and companies where background checks and references mattered. If I could land a position with regard and credibility, not as a fired man but as an experienced professional ready to rebuild, I'd also have leverage. My interview at a mid-sized consulting firm went well. I spoke about leadership, team trust, integrity, things I knew now too well. They offered me a position by the next week. Not as senior as my old job, but enough to feel like I'd landed solid footing. I accepted, kept it under wraps until I started. With a new job secured, I was ready for the next phase. Now it wasn't just about exposing Melissa, it was about protecting myself, telling truth not in anger, but with clarity. So I began building a paper trail. I collected the same documents that fired me. HR emails, performance reviews, termination letter. I organized everything in a binder. On a separate folder, I placed a printout of the incriminating text messages I'd taken. Every message from the thread, the innuendo, the plan to remove me, the active deception. Labeled, bound. Then I assembled a third folder with a carefully worded letter. Not a hate-filled explosion, but a confession, a statement. I would deliver it sequentially to 1. The HR manager at my former company. 2. Any trusted colleagues I had left behind, particularly those who'd questioned the situation but were silenced by politics. 3. My lawyer, with instructions for next steps if there was no formal resolution. I practiced what I'd say. Misleading information cost me my job, but I bring evidence that shows it was orchestrated. I rehearsed calmly. No threats, just truth. The following week, I arrived at my former office, this time as a calm professional, not a disgraced ex-employee. I walked into HR, holding the binder. "Hi, Debbie. You'll remember me. I'd like to update my file." She looked at me, eyes flicking between surprise, confusion, curiosity. I passed her the folder with documents clearly labeled, "For HR records." Then quietly, "I'm hoping for a fair re-evaluation." With tact, I requested a meeting with Terrence, my former manager, to clarify the context and timeline. I watched as he realized that her accusations were fabricated. A few hours later, news had spread. My termination, being reviewed, my reputation, closing in on restoration. Meanwhile, I emailed the lawyer with the evidence, along with guidance on defamation or emotional distress claims. That evening, I received a stranger message from Melissa's phone, a frantic, broken apology. I ignored it. Instead, I confirmed my start date at the new firm, packed essentials, and prepared for a fresh start, this time on my own terms. Over the next 2 weeks, my efforts bore fruit. My old company invited me back, either to reinstate me in a similar role or offer a severance package reflective of my loss. Not a full victory, but recognition of wrongdoing. I chose the latter, avoided return to that toxic ground. More importantly, I entered my new job confident in my value. But I wasn't done. Next was the confrontation with Melissa. I arranged for a dinner, just us, at home, but on my terms. I laid out the documents without shouting. "This binder," I said, handing it to her, "explains everything." I watched her face drain. The truths she thought hidden were written in undeniable clarity. She stumbled, trying to explain. I didn't need more lies. "I've already spoken to HR," I told her. "They know the truth. I've already signed with a new company. I'm rebuilding." In that moment, I wasn't angry. I was steady. And her expression shifted from panic to resignation. We didn't break in that moment, not yet. We sat together in an uneasy silence while I boiled water for tea. In this silence, I realized something. The revenge wasn't in exposing her. It was in being the better man through it. Not shouting, not vengeance, just unwavering truth delivered cleanly. Weeks passed. I hired a divorce lawyer but worked through mediation, not confrontation. We separated our assets, split amicably. She had no leverage. I had evidence, but I chose not to humiliate. I chose fairness because I valued dignity more than vindication. I continued flourishing in my new role, earnestly, visibly. A year later, a promotion. Recognition for work that required respect and trust, the very things she tried to destroy. So when coworkers asked about the past, I said only, "I learned something valuable, that the real win is peace of mind, not pointing fingers." It had been nearly a year since everything fell apart. New job, new apartment, and a quieter life built on honesty instead of illusion. After I delivered the evidence to HR and secured my position elsewhere, life slowly found a familiar rhythm. My new workplace valued transparency, teamwork, and authenticity. My contributions were recognized. My confidence came back, stronger than before. But I still carried unresolved pieces. Not vengeance, but resolution. I decided to finalize the separation with care. I met Melissa one evening at a neutral cafe. No emotions on display, just clarity. I placed the documents on the table. Signed settlement agreement, fair value for our home. Shared assets divided respectfully. Not out of pity, but fairness. "I won't humiliate you," I said quietly. "But I do need honesty from now on." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I understand." That night, I walked away without triumph, just gentleness. A man who refused to be dragged by lies. Back in my apartment, I pulled out the benchmarks, the Project Truth folder I carried in secret for months. I didn't delete it. Yet. I needed to see how far I'd come. Over the next weeks, I focused on small, forward-leaning habits. Mornings with coffee on the balcony, not notifications. Volunteering at a community program teaching coding to youth. Reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, without phantoms from the past looming. Writing again, not for anyone, but for myself. Then came a moment that crystallized it. I was at a friend's house for a casual dinner. Someone jokingly asked about that drama I heard about online. Before I could brace for the onslaught, I just smiled. "Story's old," I said. "Focus on the future." Something about not needing to explain anymore felt like freedom. Later that evening, on the apartment balcony, I burned the last copy of those incriminating messages. Not as revenge, but as release. The ashes scattered in the night breeze. A weight lifted. Months later, on a cool spring day, I got a letter. No return address. I recognized the handwriting. Melissa. Her note said, "I'm sorry. For everything. I've joined therapy. I see what I lost, not just the man, but the man I promised to trust. I hope one day you find a way to forgive me entirely." I folded the letter gently. No anger. No longing. Just acceptance. I took a long breath. Then I sent one text. "Thank you. Take care." And let it go. What came after was not about revenge. It was about renewal. I signed a contract at work for a leadership role. I took a weekend trip with friends. Nothing fancy, just laughter and sunsets. One evening I realized I was comfortable, really comfortable in my own skin. That's when I let go of the last thing. The folder labeled Project Truth, because I didn't need the evidence to define me anymore. Now, I am defined by calm, by clarity, by the choice to heal instead of hurt. I didn't come out of darkness with a roar. I came out stepping lightly, on my own terms, whole again.